All right. Welcome to today's office hours. My name is Mark Stepp. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve and your host for the day. Today, I'm going to talk about webhooks again. And like I said last time, if you guys get tired of listening about webhooks, let me know. I really want to make sure that everybody sees the value of what you can do with a webhook. In this particular class, we're going to go through creating Facebook pages, the Facebook page posts, not a group post, but a page post with a workflow webhook action. So if you look on the screen over here on the right-hand side, this is just a sample one. Because I'm not a realtor, I just play one on TV. This property, I went out to a site, kind of grabbed some details. It had a pretty picture. Thought I'd kind of show this as an example. So this is a live property of somebody's, but it is not anything that I would normally post on my page. What I did do is create a separate page that I just called featured properties. And what we want to do is maybe on a regular basis of a new listing or whatever, we post some information about properties and stuff to that page. In your case, whatever page you've currently got set up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as we go through the process, if you have questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand or speak out. I don't mind that at all during these sessions. That's what we're here for. So if you have questions, ask away. That's the whole intent. So what we're going to do is come over here. And so the example in this case is to post Facebook post messages or the posts into Facebook in a page. And some of the use cases here might be, you've got some coming soon properties. You want to know, if somebody might be interested in learning more about this property, please share this post. So, you're getting shares out there. Just listed. Once it's actually been listed, interested in learning more about the beautiful property, it won't last long. Under contract, once it goes under contract, maybe you want to send something in the contract process and say, if you or someone is thinking about selling a similar style property, please let us know. We have potential buyers that are missing out on this opportunity or that have missed out on this opportunity. Or just close, another successful closing, blah, blah, blah. So there's lots of different cases where you might use similar, the same photo, some similar wording, some messaging, different ways, different times through the listing, marketing, and closing process. And what we want to do is give you the opportunity within a workflow to actually do that automatically. And it takes a little bit of setup, and we're going to go through that setup process today. So the first question that I will cover is, what is a webhook? If you've not seen any of the videos that I've gone through before, it's important to understand exactly what a webhook is. And it's just in plain English, it is a web address that you can push or send information to. And it looks something like this blue line here. It's just a URL, like a website address that you can send data to. And then once it's sent there, it can be used for something. And if we look at kind of a visual of how this works, you've got your Realvolve database, and there's really three main databases. You've got your contacts, your properties, and your transactions. In a workflow, and it will be either a contact, property, or transaction workflow, you choose which section you're in, and then you can send data to this webhook URL and use it in lots and lots of different places. Today, we're going to talk about the Facebook page post. In previous ones, we've talked about Google Slides, printing out flyers, using Delighted, Google Docs, Google Sheets. There's other ones that we will be using as well. So these are just some examples of where you might use a webhook. So in my example, in what we're going to do today, there are two fields that I would potentially use. So I go in, I create a brand new listing, a property in Realvolve. And then I'm going to go over to the marketing tab in Realvolve and put in some information. The two pieces of information that I must have is the photo URL, the actual link for that URL. Now, this might come from your public site on your MLS. It could come from lots of different places, your own website, wherever you're storing a photo of the property. You can paste that URL into the marketing connections area for add photo URL. The other field that I'm using today, now you can use any of these fields, but I'm just using the field called Internet Marketing Narrative. And in here, while it looks like a single line, it's actually, as you type in more, it grows, so you don't have to worry about it. But what you might do is go into like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or wherever, type in all your description, your narrative of the property, and then copy and paste it in here. That way you get all the spelling, you get all the wording right, the way you want it, and it looks the way you want. So these are the two fields that we're going to be filling in the marketing tab of a property. Now, what I'm doing is I grabbed this particular one from Zillow. I just went out to that. I did a quick search, found the property I wanted to use, grabbed the URL. You'll see that it is a WebP image. It's just a special type image, but it's got a real long URL to it. So, copy and paste that. It can be a PNG, JPEG, WebP. There's lots of other image types that Facebook allows, but these are the primary ones. So you need to make sure you've got that into the photos field. And then in that internet marketing narrative, you can just type in whatever you want. Again, copy and paste it from something else. Maybe you've typed it in. You want it to make sure all the spelling and sentence structure is all correct. Now, the thing that you cannot really do is adjust like underlines and italics and bold and stuff like that in this. Facebook just doesn't do that, but you can type in all the content. Once you've got all the content in there, then you're good to go. What we need to do is, in order to set this up properly so we can use it over and over and over again for every new listing, closing, whatever you're doing this in, is set up a workflow activity. And in this case, I'm setting up a new activity in a new workflow. I created a single workflow with a single activity in it, but this might just be part of your normal marketing listing process. It's just one additional activity that you add to this. So in this case, I'm creating an activity called title, send Facebook page post. So mouthful. Decide who needs to do it, whose calendar does it get put on, schedule it for however many days out from whatever days you want. It's not something that I care about in this example. When it goes, it can go at any time. So whenever you've got that set up, the thing that we do want to make sure of is that the value of the fields have something in it. So what I did was I created in the checklist area of this activity, I added two merge field checklist items. The first one is the photo link field. Property, it's bracket, bracket. Whenever you're in your checklist, you can just put in bracket, bracket and type in photo, and it'll bring up a list of all the different photos. And this is one of them. The property pound photo link is the URL. That's this field in your database. And the internet marketing narrative is the other field. Now, what will happen is whenever you go and fill it in the normal fields, paste it in and stuff, it'll be there. Whenever you run this activity, it will show you the values. The main thing there is making sure that the values have something in them that that look right, and it's not just blank. Because if it's blank, your post won't be accurate. It won't do what it needs to do. The other thing that we want to do is we want to create an action on this activity. We want to create it so it will actually do the process of sending this Facebook page post. So you would click on the create action, and let me just go to, I thought I had one on here. Let me see here. We'll come back to that. Let me just come over here. I need to make sure this gets added. So if we look at this, in this case, oh yeah, I know it'll actually show here in a little bit. The title of this action is just send Facebook page post. We don't need to send a message or any of that. What we're doing is we're using this new webhook area here. We click on the little down arrow, and in here we need to have a URL. And we're going to come to that here in a second. How do you get this URL? And come back over here. So we're going to fill in that piece of information. We need that webhook action in the system. Now, in order to get that webhook URL, we have to create, I'm doing this in Zapier. We have to create a Zap. Now, I have gone ahead and created a Zap template so everybody can have access to this. Actually, just copy the link address. Let me go ahead and put this into the, with everyone. I'm going to put this into the chat area so that everybody has access to this. And if you're watching this on video, it will be available on the sheet here. Everybody will get a copy of this slide deck. It'll also be in our YouTube video. I'll put links to this as well. What this is, it is a predefined Zap, and all you have to do is get a couple pieces, connect your account, and it's done. But what I want to do today is actually show you what fields and stuff you need to make sure are set up. So we're going to go to the next page here and just actually cover that process. So whenever you're in Zapier, you just go to zapier.com, Zapier.com. Some people call it Zapier. I'm pretty sure it's actually Zapier. Their moniker, their slogan or whatever is Zapier makes you happier. It rhymes. So over on the left-hand side, there's a Create Zap button. You can click on that and go through the process. Whenever you first come on to Zapier, they give you a little wizard, a little box here where you can create your own Zaps, in which case you want to connect two different things. We want to create the Webhook by Zapier. This is the app part of it. That is the trigger. There's a trigger and then there's an action. The trigger in this case is Webhook by Zapier, and it is a premium app, which means you have to have a paid version of Zapier. The free version where you get 100 free Zaps won't do in this case. The other thing is if you're using Facebook pages, I believe it's premium as well. Most of the Facebook items are premium. So you need it for both in this case anyway. But the trigger in this case, Webhook by Zapier, and what are we going to do with it once the trigger happens? It's the action. The action is Facebook pages. We're going to do something in Facebook pages. So once we select that, then it'll open up a little bigger area here and it'll say, okay, when this happens to the webhooks, in this case, we want to choose the catch hook, meaning some data has come into this web address and we want to catch that information and use it somewhere. Then we want to do something with it in the action. In this case, we want to create a page photo. There is an option for a video, and I was going to show that as well, but I was having a challenge with giving any kind of video URL within this. So I'm going to dig a little deeper on that and make sure that I have that right, but we'll show that as well. So at some point in the future. In either case, those are the two apps that we need to use. These are two action and trigger and action that needs to be used, and we'll go on. So if you did the button on the left-hand side and did the little create, it'll take you through the wizard step by step. And I'm actually going to do that just so that you can see that as well. Some of this will actually already be done for you if you did this part. So just bear with me here for a second. I want to make sure that we cover both bases. In this case, if I'm doing the create zap and I'm going through the little wizard, it's going to ask me what is my trigger app. In this case, it is the Webhook by Zapier. You'll see that it is the premium. So I would select that. And the trigger event is the catch hook. These are the same two items that I had done on the little wizard that was on the main page. It just kind of steps you through it step by step. Whenever you choose this catch hook, it knows that, hey, you, the user, need to have this webhook URL. So Zapier provides the URL for you. And here's that URL. And you can just click on the copy button. All you got to do is copy that URL. There's no rhyme or reason to the content of it. Don't worry about that. Just copy it. And then once you've copied it, then you can go back into your Realvolve account, into that action of the activity, give it the title, send Facebook page post, open up that section for the webhook, and paste in the URL that you just got from Zapier. Just paste it in. Once you paste that in, you can click on the send sample data. And what that'll do is takes and sends a big data dump of all the different fields that are part of Realvolve. Now, there's a caveat here that I want to make sure everybody's aware. Realvolve has a lot of fields, both in properties and transactions. There's a lot of date fields. There's a lot of contacts in the people tab. There's lots of party members in those for properties and transactions. So there's lots and lots of fields that can be sent. And whenever we do the send sample data, we're actually blasting in all the different fields that are available. And there's literally, I think there's about 3,000 fields in the transaction. Whenever you count all the people, all the date type fields, stuff like that. What we're finding is Zapier right now is having a challenge displaying all the fields from the webhook. It's not expecting that much data, I guess, from the sample. So what you might want to do is, instead of clicking this sample data, go ahead and click on the save button, create the activity, and actually go and start the workflow on an actual property with all the fields that you need filled in. So in this case, we need the photo link URL, and we need that marketing narrative field filled in. So fill it in with just some basic information. Start that workflow, complete that activity, and it'll actually send that data as if you had clicked on send sample data. If you do that, then all the fields will be available. If you're doing this for some other webhook stuff, it may be necessary, because if you send the sample data, it'll send all the data, but it may not display them all, so you can't select them all, is kind of the point. So if you're not finding the field that you want after you click on the send sample data, if it's for some reason not pulling up in the list, it could just be that it's so much data it can't retrieve it. In which case, if you do it from an actual property, you're getting a subset of fields, a smaller set of fields that just contain the information that you would need. So just a little bit of a heads up there. Whenever you do send that, here's kind of a sample of it. You start the workflow, you go to the activity, you complete it, run the action. In this case, because I had a couple checklist items, you'll see that it has some basic information in there. I can click on the little link button, and it'll take me to the photo in another tab. But ultimately, once these two are checked, because it's a checklist, the action then becomes available. We know that the data is filled in. We can run this. We click on run, and then it will send the data from this property to that webhook URL and be able to use it. But this is just if you're not seeing those fields for whatever reason, you can do it this way. It's kind of a workaround. If you have sent some data, one of the steps in the Zap setup is to, figure out what data that you want, and it'll have like request A is the first one when we first go in. But if you had used request A and for whatever reason all the fields wasn't there, and you did the process for sending an actual data dump of a property, you may need to click on this load more. It'll load up other samples that you've sent to that web address, and then you can select the newest one and then continue on. This is just kind of extra, kind of showing you in case emergency type things if you're not getting what you want. Ultimately, after you click that button of send sample data or you run the workflow action, you can click on test trigger, and the test trigger that says, hey, show me a sample of the data that I received from this URL. And ultimately, what you're looking for is we found a request, and here's the information, and here's a bunch of the data, just to kind of give you an example of what the data looks like. Now, on this slide deck, I did give you a list of fields that are available. So you can click here and you can see a complete list on contacts, properties, and transactions in a spreadsheet. As we add more fields to the database, that list will also be updated. So this is all about the trigger, making sure. And this actually, if you use the link that I gave you up here, right here, doing this try this Zap, all of this is actually done for you. You don't even have to worry about it, but I want to make sure that everybody is aware that it's available. So you test it. So then once you've got the trigger part of the Zap, you need to set up the action part. And again, this is all set up for you if you use the try it link that I'm going to make available to everybody. You need to choose the app in the event. We chose the app on this was to make a post to Facebook. And then it comes up and says, okay, what is the account? Which account do I need to use? So you need to select your account. If you don't have an account selected here, it'll have you create a new link to your Facebook account. You select that. And it's for whoever is the moderator of the Facebook page that you're wanting to post this to. So make sure that it's the right page or right account for the right pages that you're going to send to. Then in the setup action part of it, there's a section where it says, okay, which page do we want to use? Now, like I said earlier, I have a page that I created some time ago that is just featured properties. And it doesn't like me for some reason, but it's just a featured property page. Oh, it's because I'm not logged in, I think. And it just allows us to see, properties or whatever. So that's the page we're going to be using. I chose featured properties. Then the two fields that we need for this Zap is the photo. We need that photo URL. And in this case, the merge field that I needed, I just typed it in. Again, if you're using the shortcut, it'll all this will be filled in for you automatically. But you can go in property, detailed info, connections. If you look at it, it's the property database, the marketing section or tab in that property, detailed info connections, which is the connections section of Realvolve, and then the photo URL. So there's kind of a long string merge field there, but it is the information that's needed for the photo. It's just the URL for the photo. The description then, this can be just as simple as putting in that internet marketing narrative. Whatever you typed into that one field will be blasted in. What you might want to do, and I gave an example of this as well. Let me come over here, and in this description field right here, instead of just having one field, what you might want to do is make it a little fancier and do some additional stuff, where in that description field, you're adding a list of merge fields and text as well. So interested in learning more about this beautiful property, it won't last long. So you put some verbiage in there, and then you put in the actual narrative content. And then maybe below that or above that, and you can do wherever you want, maybe you want to also just add a section called property details, and you put in the year built, bedrooms and baths, how many bedrooms and bathrooms there are. And these are just the merge fields that will be filled in once that information goes in. So you can do it either way. You can just do a one merge field, or you can add any number of text elements, merge field elements, build out the structure, the design that you want to use to make it look how you want to look. And this just makes it super simple to fill in and keep consistent if you want to just use some of the merge fields and just not even have the narrative if you didn't want. What I would do in that case, though, is just like I created the merge or the checklists for the narratives and stuff, I would do the same thing in the checklist area for any of the fields that you do use. Make sure the value's in there, otherwise it's going to look funny. So just make sure that you have values in those fields before you actually send it. Once you have it set up, there's a test and continue. It'll come to this page and it'll say something like, test was successful. A page photo was sent to Facebook pages. And then in my case, I had done the screenshot about an hour after I had actually done it. It should say a few seconds ago. And then if there is a problem, if the test was not successful, maybe the URL wasn't good, something, it could say unsuccessful or problem. It'll actually say something about problem, in which case you're going to want to go back, check the values, check the information, make sure that it's set up correctly. But this is what you're looking for. Test was successful. Once you get that test is successful, then there'll be a continue option. Because I came back later, it's a different set of buttons here. But what it'll do is whatever test data you sent will actually be sent to your Facebook page. So in this case, I'm looking at my view. Whenever I logged in as me, I looked on that page. This is what it looks like. So featured properties was the page. And then I just created the verbiage of information. I just used the one single field. There's the photo that we pulled from Zillow. In this case, it was the WebP photo. It just loads it in and it makes it all available. At this point, you've got it in your account. It's sent. If you want to boost your page, you can do that. If you want to do other things to, enhance its viewership, certainly do that. Make that available. But it's just a matter of, I didn't have to go in there, step through the process, the workflow, sent the data, created the post, and it's there. Magic. So by setting it up one time like this, now every time I get a new listing, it saves me another 5 minutes. As Kendall Young says, your day is lost in 5-minute increments, and this will save you that extra 5 minutes or more. If you look at this from the public view, which is what we were looking at a second ago, you'll see it looks just a little bit different in that it still has the page, but it doesn't have, that it was sent by Zapier. It doesn't have the boost post, all that kind of stuff. It just has the basic information. If you use merge fields and stuff, you can have that in here filled in for you automatically, and you're good to go. The other thing that you could do, and I'm just looking at this, where I had actually copied and pasted the content from Facebook or from Zillow and all the information. You could create a sentence structure just like this using the fields in the database. So, if it had 4 bedrooms, that would be a merge field, and it would say bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, whatever. You can create full sentence structures, and it's just doing the same thing that you did right here, where you're, instead of using fields like this with labels, you could have it as part of a sentence structure and do the same thing. Just kind of give you a little insight there. So then, each time you have a brand new listing, you go through the normal listing process. Your workflow is processing, and lo and behold, on whatever day it's due from the time that you start the workflow, you get this activity: send Facebook page post. What a lot of people have done in the past is just made that a checklist item, and then they have to go out there, do it themselves, and then check it off. Now with webhooks, you can actually have it do the process for you. You don't have to do it manually. We come in here. Do we have a photo link? Yes, we do. Click it. If we don't, go out there, select the photo URL, paste it right there, paste the content right there. Any of the fields that don't have values, fill them in. That's the purpose of a checklist, is to get the values. Whenever you type it in here or paste it in here, it will then send that data back to that listing and fill in the fields in the database for you. That saves you time. So if you've got an assistant, maybe they're new to Realvolve. They don't necessarily know where all the fields are at or anything like that. All they have to do is follow the instructions on the activity. In this case, what is the photo link? What is the narrative, the information that I need? Make sure the values are in there. And that's all you have to train them on, to say, make sure the values are there. If they're there, then you check them off. At that point, since it is a completed checklist item that I put this on, once those are checked off, then you can check the action that you want to send. And maybe you have multiple, in this case, maybe you have different Facebook posts that you want to possibly use. Maybe if you don't have a photo yet, but you still want to post some information about it, maybe you have another action that just does the narrative, and it uses the post option for Facebook instead of the photo post. So you could have different actions to send the information in here, and choose the one that's appropriate. So you don't necessarily always have to send a photo link. You can send one that's just a normal post. Something to think about. Once you check that off, you click on the run, and then it goes and does its thing. Again, boom, it creates the content, creates the photo information, and then getting the return information from people that see it, the likes, the comments, the shares, hoping to get all that information out there. Does that all make sense? Is there anything that didn't make sense that I can make sure it's clear? Anyone? This is where people can talk or chat. If you just want to post something in the chat, you can certainly do that. Sorry, have to hop off. No problem. Okay, so that's pretty much it, what I wanted to show today. If there's other questions about other things, I'll certainly be happy to go over those questions as well. One of the things that I did want to make sure that everybody knew. And let me come over here. So if you go out to our YouTube, if you just do a search for Realvolve and go to our channel, of course, I'm looking at this as if I'm the channel owner. We have different videos and stuff. Past office hours are out here. If you look in the playlist, there's a section just for Realvolve office hours, and these are all the different office hours that we've had, so you can go back through those. If you're wanting to learn more about webhooks, I've created a special playlist just for webhook training, so you can go in there and you can see the different the different videos that we've done. And as we do more of these, we'll put them in here. So by the time you see this, maybe there'll be more if you're watching this on replay. But you'll see that we did one for the delighted surveys. So in the workflow process, at some point you want to survey some of your people. You just want to send them like a 5-star rating question. They put in stars. They put in a description of your service that gets saved, so you can view it on a dashboard. You can see it on your website or whatever. That information on how to do that is there. We created this was kind of the initial announcement of webhooks, kind of an overview of it. And what we've been doing is kind of using specific use cases on the office hours just to show you where you can do stuff. We did one on creating printable client documents. So if you wanted to create letters, and Realvolve, we've always kind of been paperless. That's kind of the theme of Realvolve in the most part. But we know that not everybody is paperless. Not everybody wants to send emails. Some of them want to send snail mail. And in this particular video, we show you how you can use Google Docs to send data from a contact, a property or transaction, send it, and then be able to print that information from a Google Doc and make it a letter, whatever. So that was a good one that we did. And then I think it was last week we did this one where we did a under contract timeline. So we fixed up a fancy design of some timeline fields. Whenever the property went under contract, here are some of the key dates that you need to know about, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. And it lists out some critical information, just kind of show you how that's done. That was highly received. We had a lot of people make a lot of comments on that one. So that's a great one to watch as well. But all of these are being put into this webhook section and webhook training. So take a visit there. Looking over here at group stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this. And let me bring over Realvolve. So here's the question, guys. Are there any other questions? It's like I did maybe have. Looks good. Can't wait to try it myself. Thanks, Bobby. Or whoever the admin is. No, you are the admin. Got it. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, many times whenever I'm creating these sessions for you, it comes about from somebody asking a question during the week. Hey, how do I do blah, whatever this. Somebody had asked about, hey, I want to send information to Facebook. How do I do that? So I just kind of use this time to go through, decide which of the different requests and go into a deep dive on each of them. So the point there being, if there is something that you would like to do, and maybe it's not initially part of Realvolve, but it would be useful to be done within the workflow process, either a lead process of some sort, leads coming in, you're doing something with them, the listing, marketing, maintenance phase workflows, all the property type workflows, or anything during the contract to close process. Those are things that you do on a regular basis. We want to create workflows that help guide you through all those processes that you do every week, month, year for each of the different systems that you have in place. It's all about creating systems, guys. And if you have your systems in place, then automate those systems using workflows. And whenever I say systems do not have to be automated. It could be just, paper type. This is the process. This is my system for handling whatever. But if it's something that you do more than once, it should be created as a system. Then you take that information and you create it into a workflow. You put your listing process, your closing process, your lead process. There's lots and lots of processes. One of the things I did recently was take a look at all the different workflows that all the different real estate agents that use Realvolve have created. And this is crazy. I weeded out duplicates. We have over 63,000 workflows that run in Realvolve at any given time. 63,000 that are not duplicate. I mean, they're different in some way. Some of them may be listing process or whatever. There are certain categories of workflows, but there's 63,000 different unique titled workflows. A lot of them are just listing process. I weeded all those out. But if it's something that you do more than once, create a system, automate it, put it into a workflow. And then from that, then delegate that workflow process can be delegated to your team members. If you don't have a team yet, maybe you're a single agent. Ideally, create it as if you did have a team so that each of the activities that you do are assigned to the appropriate role that a team member would play. If they're an assistant, put it as an assistant activity. If it's the listing coordinator, put it as the listing coordinator activity. And then at that point, even though you may not have that assistant, you may not have that listing coordinator, at some point, as you grow, you get busier, you want to scale your business and actually leverage time, then you can hire that person and you already have your systems in place to be able to do the things that they should be doing, you should be doing. Whenever you start the workflow, you're just assigning them to those tasks. At that point, then everything flows much easier. That's how you leverage your time. That's how you save those 5-minute increments and you save the rest of the day. Ultimately, as many of you have heard my story, my goal has always been create the processes to allow you guys to get your job done more efficiently, more effectively, and be able to get home, be with your family, be with the ones that you love, doing the things that you love to do, and not think about work. Relax, enjoy life, be in the moment with your family. That's what it's about. I cannot tell you how many agents that I've helped through the years that have just, they wear themselves out because they're constantly in motion trying to get things done, because in many cases they're just trying to play catch up from the things that they should have gotten done through the day, but they've just been too busy. So creating the systems, creating the processes will help you save that time and be able to then turn around and spend that time with your family. So that's what I'm about. If there's anything that you know about me, that's it. I've been doing this for 31 years. And prior to Realvolve, we did a similar type of a process in the other company I owned. But this is what it's about. We have just a few more minutes. Any questions from anybody? You can unmic or you can send a chat, either one. Going once, going twice. All right, well, I will give you guys back an extra 15 minutes of time. If there's anything that we can do for you, be sure to visit our Facebook page, the Realvolve community page. Ask questions there, and especially on these office hours, if there's something you liked, or other ideas, post it on there. Give me some feedback. And in fact, if you don't mind, let me pull this up real quick, and this can be really, really quick. This is a QR code. If you have a chance, or if you would right now, pull up your phone, your mobile phone, and pretend like you're going to take a picture of something and actually point it at the screen, in which case it will give you a little link. You don't have to take a photo, just it'll give you a little link on top of that. Click on that little link and give me some feedback. You know, how do you like this, the office hours that we're running? Is there, 1 star, or is it 5 stars? I hope it's 5 stars. If it's not, I want to work on that. I want to make sure it's what you guys are needing. And there'll be also an area where you can type in some comments. Give me feedback, good or bad. It is, or can be, somewhat anonymous. I think using the QR code, it just assigns a number. I don't know who you are. If you want to give me some honest feedback, certainly do that. I would appreciate it, in fact. So guys, like I said, if there's anything else, let us know. We're here to help you. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.